In this video, we're going to go over how to write a thesis statement and how to write a good one at that. So the first question you might have, what is a thesis statement? And in the simplest of terms, a thesis statement indicates the main focus of your entire essay. And this is different from a topic or a title, which you should be able to give your reader in just a few words. For example, medication errors is an example that we're going to use today. That's the topic or part of a title that you might use. And to effectively write a thesis statement, you're going to need to meet your reader's expectations. And I do want to note that if you're writing this for school, different instructors will have different expectations, and some of them will let you know what those expectations are, some of them will not, and this information is pretty general and universally used. So how long should a thesis statement be? It should be 1 to 2 sentences in length, and that is usually the number of sentences given in most textbooks. I myself prefer 1 sentence, feeling that that's able to show that you have complete control over writing about your topic if you can summarize it down into 1 sentence. Where does a thesis statement go? Typically, a thesis statement is at the end or the very last sentence of your introduction in your essay. And this is because you generally start broader in your essay at the very beginning of your introduction. You grab the reader's attention, then you narrow the focus of your topic, and you end with the thesis statement as a way to funnel your reader into the first main point or body paragraph of the essay. As far as what should be in a thesis statement, that's a little bit more complicated, but there's 3 main things. So you need to make sure that what the main focus of the essay is indicated in your thesis statement. You also need to make sure that your purpose or the genre of the essay is clear in the thesis statement. So for example, if you're writing an informative paper, you should have an informative thesis statement. If you're writing an argumentative paper, you should have an argumentative thesis. If you are writing a narrative or a personal story about your life, then your thesis statement should be personal and narrative. And lastly, you should indicate what you plan to address or cover about your topic. And typically this is a preview of the conclusions that are drawn or of the key points. And I would encourage you to summarize those key points so that you aren't just listing your main points from the essay, which can get very long and most people refer to as forecasting. So the example here is about medication errors. The topic is indicated in the sentence, but also provided are the key points that are going to be covered, and it's also clearly an informative thesis statement. So medication errors are a pervasive and potentially life-threatening problem in the healthcare industry that many government and private sector organizations are striving to reduce in number and severity. And we have the topic, medication errors, and we have the key points. We're going to be focusing on the pervasiveness of medication errors, how they can be life-threatening in nature, and how we are working to reduce the number and severity. And an easier way to think about all this, that's a lot, those 3 things, but generally speaking, if you can try to summarize your entire essay down into 1 sentence, it would do about the same thing. So if you get your whole essay summarized effectively in 1 sentence, you'll get the same or very similar results. And sometimes that's easier for people to think about. And also shows you that generally the thesis statement should be a working thesis statement and changeable until you're completely done with the final draft. Because sometimes it's easier to write or rewrite the thesis statement after the entire essay is written. So that's what a thesis statement is. What isn't a thesis statement? And a thesis statement cannot be a question. A lot of people want to write a question as a thesis statement, but it's actually right there in the name. It says thesis statement, so it has to be a statement, should not be a question. And if you're having trouble, sometimes it helps to just write the question out and then answer it, and the answer is probably your thesis statement. It also should not be a statement of fact or a topic sentence. Those are too narrow in focus and cannot cover the focus of an entire essay the way a thesis statement can. It also should not be an incomplete thought or a cliffhanger. We're not writing a novel here trying to keep our audience entertained. You should give them enough information up front that they are engaged and interested in reading the rest of your paper. And it should not be dependent on the introduction content or any other part of the essay for context. A thesis statement should be able to stand on its own and make complete sense if it's removed from the essay. So you can literally do this on Microsoft Word. Take just your thesis statement, copy it, paste it into a blank document, and then read your thesis statement. Does it make sense on its own? Are you using proper nouns and common nouns where needed instead of pronouns so it's clear what you're talking about? And you may have another version of the thesis statement appearing at the end of the essay. And this depends on how you write your conclusion and what your strategy is, but oftentimes people will have a revised or reworded and likely more specific thesis statement at the start of their conclusion so that it signals this is the end of the essay, this is not a new point. And you can see here with this example, it is covering the same information as the original thesis statement, but it has different wording. It's not word for word, it's not very similar, and it's broken up into 2 sentences now instead of just one. And a couple other example thesis statements here. We have another informative one. Businesses are hesitant to actually commit to environmental protection plans because they are concerned the plans will not benefit them in the short run. And that would be providing information, again, about why businesses are hesitant to commit to those environmental protection plans and focusing on the reason being the short run and profitability. The next one is argumentative. Government at the state and federal level struggles to effectively address racial and class disparities with access to affordable health care. And so this is making an argument, and you would need to then provide proof that the government is not doing this effectively. And then the last one is argumentative. The United States government should enact a federal indoor smoking ban, much like Minnesota's Clean Indoor Air Act, in order to protect citizens from the dangers of secondhand smoke. And in that essay, you would be making the argument that the United States government should be doing this and providing reasons why this should be centered around the dangers of secondhand smoke. All right, thanks for listening.